Have nurseries of native Hawaiian plants, and we've been in partnership with them for about 23 years. My daughter Keala, who's 23 years old, I was pregnant with her when we formed Malama Learning Center. I was one of the original founders, and Pauline Sato and the high school principal, Al Nagasako, was able to create this this organization so that we could teach our community in Kapolei, because at that time that's where I was living, to learn how to malama aina and to learn how to grow the native plants, because you will find out, if you don't already know, how important native plants are in order to help reduce the risk of wildfire. It's not to say that it's going to prevent fires, but it definitely has a role. Native plants has a role in our aina, because when you plant native plants, they are so accustomed to our aina that they keep moisture much more better than non-native plants, and so that's why there's this huge effort to try to get rid of invasive plants, and not trees, because we want trees. But if they can cause some major harm or damage, those are the things that we just got to watch and monitor and learn about. And tonight they'll be sharing that information with you as well. So in a very short while we will start, and you can continue to go get more mea'ai, because there's a lot more that's there. The thing about community events like this, we never know who's going to show up. So we just make what we do and hope that we don't have 100 people, but actually 100 people is a good mana'o. So when this is pau, we will send you and the video link, and if you can share that out with your friends, your neighbors, our community, and we'll continue to promote this, because it's so important for us to know what we're going to be learning this evening. Okay. So we're very fortunate to also have with us from Hawaii Wildfire Management Organization, we have Anuhea. Raise your hand, Anuhea. How about a round of applause? She's from Papakolea, that's all the way in town. She's a town girl. And then Erin, she's also with Hawaii Wildfire Management Organization. I'm not sure where Erin is, but I know it's not in Waianae. Where you live? She lives in town too. And then our first speaker is Clay Trawanik. He's with the University of Hawaii, and he can give you his whole bio or just information about his department, because it's a long title. I've heard him present on wildfire, and he scares the bejesus out of me. And he just gives us really valuable information that we need to know. And he's coming from the perspective of years and years of research, culmination of information, and what we need to arm ourselves with when we are moving forward in our journey in helping to protect our aina. So could you help me in welcoming Clay?
Guys, put you to sleep with other slides. I don't have any slides. I just wanted to talk to you guys about a few things, and I think in the context of Ready, Set, Go. Oh yeah, the mic. Okay, sorry. Let me fix this a little bit so it's higher up. Yeah, sorry about that. In the context of Ready, Set, Go, I think what we're obviously here talking about is like our individual roles. Is it working? Oh yeah, there it goes. But also, fire's tough because it requires sort of collective action too, right? And so the good news is, I'll talk a little bit about like what makes Hawaii different, but what makes Hawaii same as almost everywhere else is that the things that you can do around your house are the same as everywhere else. And of all the fire science that I've read and sort of have participated in, I'm not into like the built environment. My background is plants. But some of the best science that's out there really solidly demonstrates that these little actions that you take, cleaning up your yard, that like 5-foot zone around the house, all of these things that we can do like tonight, you know, if you wanted to go and get started, really, really make a difference. As far as reducing the risk that your home is going to ignite in a fire, and that, you know, you'll experience the loss in that way. The challenge though comes, and I think Nohe's already talking about this, is like, how do we get our neighbors to do the same thing? Because the other part of the science shows is that, yeah, you can significantly reduce the chances of your house catching fire, but the more houses around you that adopt those practices, the better your odds, right? So the safer it becomes. And so that's really like the fundamental science. All of these actions, though, that these things are recommending, all Hawaii wildfire management organizations, materials, this is stuff that we've like gleaned from these cool research programs that literally will like build houses, put them in warehouses, and just shower them with sparks and see what happens. Like where does the fire catch? Where does the spark catch? And I think all of these folks that you see, the real experts in the built environment, from all the work that they've done, it's very rare that a fire actually comes in direct contact with your house. It's these ember showers. Ironically, in the case of Ready, Set, Go, I mean, the origins of this program really are like the evacuation, the idea of evacuation. And so while you take all of these actions to make sure your house is better able to withstand a fire, the biggest action you can take, the smartest action you can take, is just to get out of the way, right? And it's a huge issue for us in Hawaii. I think the fun fact is like 2/3 of neighborhoods, subdivisions, whatever, are one way in, one way out, for example, right? And so we're dealing with really, really big challenges with that. There's lots of cars parked everywhere. A lot of times those roads just become one way, right? And so these are kinds of issues. It's not like we're going to all fix them as individuals, but things to be aware of when we're talking and you have opportunities to kind of get together in groups, especially when you have political leaders talking about these kinds of plans, emergency planning, what some of the issues you guys have experienced and are facing. And especially, right, on the west side here, we know that the whole place is one way in, one way out. And it's been amazing to me to see the military actually stepping up and allowing Kole Kole Pass, for example, as an alternative. So, but I have a question for you guys. Do you guys know what are, like, when we talk about wildfire, I think I kind of hate to be like the Howley from town coming over and talking to Waianae about wildfire, because you guys have lived it in a way that a lot of places in town and other parts of the islands haven't seen. And so I'm just curious what you guys think the kind of main ingredients, like when you're worrying about risk, right? It's not rocket science. What are the main? There's 3 main things that it takes to get a fire going. Fuel, yeah, which is alternatively called air. Well, air is another one. Oxygen, yeah. You got a hand up? Is yeah.
One of the reasons why we focused on fire, but where I live,
Yeah.
right on with a pump.
Yeah. Right.
The property owner is sort of unknown.
Right. Okay.
And so for the last 30 years, when I was younger, I would get my own weed whacker. I was trespassing, yes I was. I was protecting my property by cutting the 30 feet.
Right. Right.
But now I'm aged.
Right.
I'm 64. My weed whacker now, the newer one I bought, yeah, it's quite heavy.
Yeah.
Right? So what used to take me 1 day to do my own yard now takes me
Right.
right? So the thing is, I thought that maybe you guys would have something to, litigate that, right? Because that's one of the things about Maui Fire, right? Property owners that neglected their property,
Right.
right? So the thing is, I was hoping something like that, right? So for me, it was, what would really protect my home? If that property owner
Right.
would cut that property.
Yeah. Well, so it's fuels. That's one of the things that you're worrying about. And then the idea there is like, what kind of codes can you build? So what sort of, like you said, litigate, what kind of responsibility, how do we impose responsibility on our neighbors? And the only good news or bright spot in that I can offer is that Maui County, and now for at least one community on Kauai, they're actually implementing codes. It all kind of falls back to limitations and capacity within our agencies, because who's responsible to enforce the codes is the fire department, right? And so,
You just said Maui County was certain, Maui is fire code? Yeah, that's
Yeah.
all Maui County.
yes.
Yeah, so there's not parts of Maui.
No, Maui County has, and then Kaumakani community on Kauai, just the one plantation village. So Maui County has a code that basically says it's a function of your land, the parcel size, and then distance to structures, right? And so this is something that the fire department and county council here can explore for Hawaii, or so for Oahu, Honolulu County, that would allow you at least make a claim, right? Just call someone in, report them, and then that would basically, the fire department has the ability to impose fines, actually take liens out on people's mortgages, but the capacity that they have then to enforce that is always questionable. Yeah, and so this lack of, what do you call it, absentee landlords, things like that, absentee landowners is a huge issue. And,
City authorities,
yeah.
for example,
Well, I'm
legal structure.
yeah, but I'm pointing out what the structures are. Yeah.
Yeah, but our city government, they're like a tourist that's charging to mud, right? So there's this illegal structure called the Super Dome, right? They reported it back in 2021, right? Again, they know about it. Our city council, there's so many people knew about it, but the city did not act on it. You know what happened? It's coming up on 2 years, right? August 30th, 2024, when somebody would confront the neighbor face to face. He came down, with the front end loader, right? Crashed into cars, damaged the house. He had 2 55-gallon drums of flammable liquid and weapons.
Yikes.
And he shot 3 women.
Yikes.
So in this community,
Right.
you do not do it face to face with a neighbor.
Right.
You could end up dead.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it'd be real helpful if somebody who's in government.
Well, it's again, you're
I'm not
trying to.
ambushing you, right?
Well, I wouldn't ambush me. I have no
Yeah, I know.
jurisdiction. I don't have power, right? I mean, ultimately, that's what it comes down to.
But you're giving us options to choose from, and that's one of them. Our neighbor's property is overgrown.
Right. Right.
How do you, again, what could end up happening? I did the report. I called fire department, the fire pool,
Yeah.
inspection division.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what they told me? Oh, our guys are busy.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they gotta inspect fire extinguishers.
Yeah.
I know that's a lie.
Well,
Yeah, I
they're,
know,
they're
I
in
know
charge
that's
of
a
like
lie.
fire
I work with the
extinguishers,
city.
sprinkler
I
systems.
know about the fire
all-
extinguishers inspection. They don't inspect it. We take it to a vendor.
Yeah.
They do the refilling and they put the tag on it,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
So it looks,
well, I think the points raised are valid, because what happens is you have, again, this is the challenge of like, it takes collective action, right? And we're in this position of like, this is mine, that's yours, and you don't have power over the guy next to you. And so how do you build momentum? How do you build like a movement to actually create safety in the community? And this is where you have to start, like, again, how do you talk to your neighbors? I don't have all the answers for this, but it is really where the more people that are doing this, the better the outcomes are going to be in the event of one of these wildfires. So I don't have answers for your questions, unfortunately. But I do know that, like, and you know, obviously too, fuels is one of the few things that we actually have direct control over, right? We can't stop all of the ignitions that are happening all over the place, right? All these human-caused ignitions. We can't really stop the climate, the variation in rainfall, the dry season, wet seasons. And really, it kind of falls back to the things we can change in our house, like cleaning up and reducing the risk, reducing the chance that your house is going to light up, and then the vegetation around us. And my job has primarily been looking at these large landowners and seeing where the pukas are in their planning. And one of the biggest challenges we have in that space is then when those large lands intersect with homes. How do you organize across all of these small parcels? And I'm like, we're still scratching our heads, because you can get, for example, the state understands liability, right? Whether they're going to put their money up for it is kind of another question still, but especially after Lahaina, this whole landscape is shifting where at least you have some awareness that there's responsibility on the landowners for these fire events that happen. And so if you can work with these large landowners to say they understand the liability, they understand that there's hazardous vegetation on their lands, but it's really in that intersection with the communities and why these kinds of events, these kinds of meetings become so important, because the more people that kind of understand what's at stake and how the safety increases, the more people that adopt these practices, the safer we all are. But unfortunately, I can't figure out all of the sort of challenges that you guys face day to day and with different landowners, different homeowners in those communities. So it is a challenge. I wish I had better answers. And so this year in particular, it's kind of where we would normally be is like the height of dry season, right? Like really, really dry, really sketchy. In fact, I feel we'd almost be late, right, in getting the message out if we were in a normal fire season. But what we're experiencing right now is kind of typical for an El Nino. I'm sure you guys have seen this in the news, where we get kind of a wet winter, or like a wet summer. And as we see all around us, the fuels accumulate, right? I'm sure the property by your house is looking crazy with all the grass that fills in. Unfortunately, what typically happens following that is the winter coming up becomes really dry. And so, I don't really try to play the fear card if I can avoid it, but I am worried, personally about this winter, about what we're facing. Our El Nino years tend to be some of the worst fire years we've seen as far as the area burned, exposure to our communities, and et cetera. And we've seen huge changes even in the last large fires in Waianae. I think you guys would recall the 2018 fires was the first time we actually had them going over the valley, the mountaintops, going from Waianae into Makaha into Kea'au, and back of Kea'au because they had been grazing down below. And so kind of leads me to the next thing I want to talk about is the options on the table it's not rocket science, as I said. It's we don't have infinite options as far as how do you deal with it. Fuels can be knocked down. You can cut them with a weed whacker. A lot of people, unfortunately, are using herbicide. I know that's not a preference for a lot of people. We can use grazing. But really, it's about that outcome. It's dropping the height, removing the quantity that's out there, and hopefully disrupting the continuity. And that's actually where Nohea's comments about native plants come in. We've got all these, they're all small scale, right? These little restoration projects, but when you actually plant trees, plant woodier plants that kind of can outcompete with the grasses, it can actually slow the spread of those fires across the landscape, give firefighters a fighting chance to protect your home. And that's really the big, again, when you are taking these actions at your home, it really gives the firefighters a chance to come in and actually have what they call defendable space. So they can be safe. They know that they're safe around your community. They can get to the backside of your house if they need to. It's really about access and safety for fire responders, because very few of these actions, even from its big fuel breaks on the landscape, will stop a fire on its own. It's almost always in combination with fire responders. So yeah, that's sort of what we've been looking at as far as the folks working on fire. Kind of outreach and education, really why wildfire is at the forefront of that. my program at the University of Hawaii, we've been, as I said, working with larger landowners to kind of say where are the need for these kinds of actions, and what that does is kind of, again, it set us up to now interface where you say, okay, you have these places where the homes are our biggest priority, right? Home, public safety, human lives is the biggest priority for us as far as risk reduction. But the challenge comes in is like, how do you organize across all these parcels? And so these kinds of events, these kinds of resources, Ready, Set, Go, the Firewise community, it's really, not only is it some of the best kind of adoption and the biggest changes we've seen on the ground, arguably over the years, have been from the communities taking action, because the agencies have been pretty slow to adopt as far as, you know, how much funding they're willing to put towards it, recognizing and having the resources, like you said, to actually respond to some of these issues. And we've seen the biggest action over the years is really at the community level. And like I said, the methods, the strategies, all of these advice and tips that they're giving you, it's really tried and true stuff. Where Hawaii gets really different is just the types of fuels we're dealing with, the climate we have, right, as far as kind of more tropical. The rains come, the grass grows, and then the rains stop and the grass cures, and we're kind of in this endless cycle and really challenging with these fuels, the haulikoa, guinea grass that we see all around Waianae. And actually most communities, it's almost all the communities in the state are really surrounded by these really challenging fuels, really dangerous, really challenging for firefighters to confront fires in there, to do direct attack, for example. And it's incredibly fast-moving and intense fire behavior. So that's really where I've kind of been working in this intersection, and I also rely on Hawaii Wildfire folks to kind of play that role of, right, how do you bridge relationships? How do we kind of come together as a community? And what are those actions that we can take, you know, directly at our homes? Because it does make a difference. So I'm not in charge of the but if you guys have any questions about what, you know, things that you have on your mind, like the gentleman over here, if there's other questions that I might be able to field, or if you guys want to dive into the content that Hawaii Wildfire, we can kind of move on and save questions for after. Oh, yeah? Yeah, well, I think a lot of these agencies, so it really depends on who owns the land, right? So it depends on the land ownership around us. And so in Waianae in particular, a lot of it is Department of Hawaiian Homelands, right? So that's the state, falls into the state. And again, like traditionally, in the sense before Lahaina, to me, it's really before and after this, right? I mean, this was the event that's like probably why a lot of you are here. Maybe it's your experience with fires here directly, but where the responsibility for fire response essentially is the fire department. So it's the county and Division of Forestry and Wildlife, right? And so if you're a state agency like DHHL, traditionally any fire-related activity or land management, vegetation management, you're kind of deferring to these other departments. But the problem is that those departments, especially Division of Forestry, they don't have direct jurisdiction or responsibility for DHHL lands. So the fact is that you have an agency that's really kind of set up for a different purpose than, you know, knocking down fuels or replanting trees or whatever. And so now I think what the realization is trying to figure out, how does, even within these agencies in the state, how is the DLNR going to be responsible or take on responsibility for DHHL lands? Does DHHL have to develop that capacity within their own organization to deal with fuel management, for example? And I think it's actually happening within private corporations as well, like private land owning companies, where for a long time, the mentality of these lands that are sort of sitting fallow is it's kind of like real estate, right? Someone knows the gate code and you maybe know who the lessee is, but like there's not a lot of knowledge built in these organizations about, oh, What kind of grass is that? Is that pose a fire risk? Like, how do I actually manage this grass? Well, great. Like, that knowledge really isn't there. And so that's kind of the shift we've been seeing, I think, since Lahaina, is the realization that, oh, we have a responsibility, and actually liability comes to play now, because that was the first case in which these landowners, where the fire started and moved through, were actually held responsible for the damages caused by that fire. That's the first time in U.S. history that this has happened. So it's really kind of shifted the ground under our feet, and like hopefully in a good way. But I think, like turtles, I think we're all a little bit frustrated that we haven't seen the changes happen more quickly. I know, like, we, in like my program, we've been sort of funded opportunistically to do these planning efforts, and we're sort of taking on geographies as funding becomes available. We would just like to do it for the whole state, but even us, we don't have the capacity to handle that. Yeah.
I know it's a loaded question, but what did we learn from that?
Oh.
I think so.
Yeah. I think, no, I mean, simple question is this stuff. Like, we learned that, like, there was nothing, like, in the immediate occurrence of that fire that we could have done. Like, anything that would have saved that town, saved those people, needed to have been done months, if not years, in advance. That's my takeaway from it. Like, we can talk about the response speed, or the wind conditions. Obviously, like, every conditions were extreme during this thing, but like, I think all of the mitigation that would have allowed them to protect the town needed to have happened long before the incident occurred. And I think the other thing is that we have had, and this is the thing I like to highlight, like Ka'ala is an example of this, like, we have had organizations, community groups, landowners taking action for many years, typically too small a scale, right? It's not big enough. It doesn't cover enough ground. It doesn't cross over into the next owner's parcel. But that these examples exist for us to learn from, right? Like, we know how to do this. It's not rocket science. Like, people know how to manage cattle. They know how to manage animals. They know how to plant trees, right? There's a lot of this comes into just land care, right? You take care of the land, malama aina, aloha aina, like these actions that you take. Anytime, if you have a mala planted in some place, you're not worried about that burning. Like, I mean, you might be worried about the landscape around it burning, but like a fire is not going to start in this place that you're tending. So I think it's that, how do we grow that out? How do we, build out from these little kipukas that are all over the place? But I think everybody's struggling with capacity. Yeah.
But then where do you go? You can't even get on your driveway.
Yeah.
People died in their cars. So,
Yeah.
so you gotta figure that. What
Escape routes, safety zones, right? So I mean, like, I'm driving through here, just, it was like before this place, kind of looking at the edge of the neighborhoods, just always looking at the fuels around, and like, the big park, right, that's behind us. So places like that, having them pre-identified in your house, like, yeah, exactly, where do you go, where do you head, where it's going to be safe. And it's intuitive, right? Like, if the grass is nice, like 2 inches high, it's all right. Yeah, exactly. So again, I think that the red flags, whatever you want to call it, like the indicators of risk are pretty intuitive. And having these places kind of mapped out for us, again, it's like, how do you shift the responsibility back to the individuals versus kind of like this collective action? What is the role of municipal government and sort of, allowing us or creating these safe spaces? Yeah. Right. Yeah, everyone's out. Yeah, I mean, the only sort of bright side, like, of the flooding, I think, kind of revealed this as well. It's just that there's no real ways in and out of these places. And have you, like, I mean, again, I don't know where your neighborhood is, but the only real options are to try to, like, work with city planners to kind of see what are those options to get out. Are there alternatives? Right. Run to the beach. Yeah. 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 I mean, that 2018 fire, everyone was out on the beach in Makaha, right? I mean, it's just, yeah, where you're trying to find these places that aren't going to burn, but it's a hard thing. And then you've got, elderly people in the community that don't have as much mobility and access to these things. It's really a challenge. And that also kind of backs us up to say, like, well, if we're doing mitigation, if we're doing the fuel breaks and the work on the land that we need to prior to this fire happening, I think avoiding those situations where everybody's trying to get the heck out of there, again, like trying to prevent, reduce the risk, reduce the chances of these big events happening in the first place. When there was all sugar plantation here, like, we weren't worrying about your house burning down, right? This is this really new phenomenon, and it is kind of like a lack of our ability to hold the people that kind of stole this land initially to hold them account, right? It's like, how do you hold people accountable to maintain safety of their neighbors, right? I mean, that's the fundamental problem. And if it's not going to be something that an individual landowner is going to take on, I think this is where the question comes: is what are the options for us, through municipal agencies? For example, there was a bill in play, I don't think it passed, that was going to allow DLNR to manage fuels on private property. So you can kind of imagine the legal mess that might create. Is like, okay, and I think their biggest challenge was like, well, how do we choose or pick or prioritize? But these kinds of things are now coming up to the surface because something needs to happen, right? And people with the knowledge and the machinery, the tools, for example, how do you do this? It's not easy. I wish, yeah.
Whenever they build anything, anywhere, the grass that they shoot to cover the land, they should change that.
Yeah.
The grass.
Right.
Some other.
Right.
Because that's
Yeah.
what
I got a friend working on it. Yeah, he's trying to grow native seed to be able to do, different plants. Yeah. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, okay. So we're talking escape routes.
Sure.
So here are a lot of things about, you want to escape by a wheeled vehicle, right? Land route. Right? But there are other options, or one option that you can escape, right? The designated safe zones.
Yeah.
Anybody ever heard of this place called Dunkirk in France?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, you had stranded British soldiers, Allied soldiers, right? They had to get evacuated from the sea. Now, you also Vietnam, right? Helicopters evacuated Vietnamese citizens from the embassy to ships waiting at the sea. Just recently, I read in today's newspaper, Canada, Ontario, which is a province.
Yeah, the fires. Big fires.
Right?
Yeah.
So I had this one indigenous group, which is very much like us,
Yeah.
Hawaiians, but they're Indians.
Yeah.
Right? So they're a coastal, isolated, or rural type
Yeah.
of community. Yeah, they exit again. Their escape route by land was cut off.
Right.
So they used their boats, because they're a fishing village like, to escape into the lake.
Yeah.
So that can be used as an option, and it takes pre-planning.
Yeah.
Right? We have staging areas. I heard one woman mention Nanakuli Beach Park. So you
Yeah.
identify Nanakuli Beach Park as if you live in Nanakuli,
That's where you go.
that's where you go.
Yeah, yeah.
Miami Beach Park,
Yeah.
right? It has a big, you can ride up smaller ocean
Yeah,
vehicles like
yeah.
jet skis, like they did on the Lahaina, supplying people
Yeah.
from the sea.
Yeah.
Waina Harbor is ideal.
Yeah.
There's ships there, right? A large ship can be parked out, and you can use to control. But this all takes pre-planning.
Yeah.
Right? So nobody wants to be caught on the road on fire or like they did on Front Street.
Yeah.
Right? Again, that was chaotic because the police, they was trying to make sure that the Hawaiian electric workers was not disturbed because they had to, priority one, get the power grid up.
Yeah.
So they're sending people who's coming out of Lahaina, right?
Back.
Right back in there.
Then you have power lines going
So what
down
I'm saying is,
everywhere.
there's
Yeah.
another option.
Yeah.
Again, this community needs to come together. You need to identify it beforehand.
Yeah.
Just like when you mentioned fire. When you, a homeowner or a family, right? Everybody escapes, but you have a certain spot where people gather to
Yeah.
make sure everybody's safe.
Yeah, yeah,
So you identify safe areas. Macau,
yeah.
right? You can identify KL Beach Park. And because there's a lot of fire hydrants
Yeah.
along Farrington Highway, right? I mean, I don't think it takes much brain, science to be a rocket scientist, right? You hang onto the water hose, you get a line of guys, and you fight off the fire so that the people, the safe zone, doesn't get threatened,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, so it's part of it. I mean, I feel like, and that's probably something that's missing in this brochure, is because we're kind of like, again, these are end up focusing on individuals, on the homeowners, and there is this piece that we kind of need to be thinking through.
These guys, Hawaii Fire Management Organization,
Yeah,
who are they?
they're here. They're here. They're here. Do you want me? You want to do the spiel? Yeah. No. So here's a. Hey, but it's a.
Difficult understanding.
Well, no, you can
How
understand
can
this
3 people be an organization?
because these guys started in 2002 by firefighters who were frustrated with their own agency's inability to do the basics: outreach, education, pre-fire planning, all of these things that needed to be part of, you would assume, a municipal government's responsibility. And this, you guys are, this is like the kind of story of nonprofit world, right? Like we are all filling in pukas that, yeah. The 2 founders actually unfortunately passed away, but there's a couple people still on the board. They started in on Big Island, like around Waikoloa. So some of the biggest fires that we've seen have been over in that part of the islands. They started this organization to get communities organized, to increase safety around homes, and it's a nonprofit. Like they raise grant money and do these education programs, just like Kala Farm, just like a lot of nonprofits around the community. And their whole mission is to increase public safety, and they're trying to fill in the pukas, and the fire departments lean on them and rely on them and work with them, and they are been doing this for 23 years now. It's almost 24 years. Yeah. Yeah. We're going. We're going. Well, so I could pass it off to Anuhea or Aaron. Yeah, you want to do a little transition.
We are not the fire department. We are just a nonprofit organizations trying to do our best to bring our community together to work together. Because as you've seen, working with the government is a challenge. Yeah, it's not working. So the only other option we have is we got to work together. We cannot, as we have seen, you have seen it. As we have seen, we can't depend on government. So who else is there to depend on? It's us. We got to take kuleana for that. We got to take responsibility for that. Yeah? No. So he's just a professor at the University of Hawaii who his mission is to just make sure that the large landholders know what their kuleana is. Doesn't mean he will hold them accountable because he doesn't have that authority. Just like the fire department doesn't have that authority to have your neighbor clean up his yard. Just like, it's unfortunate because we have many homes in Waianae that we see trees hanging over our property, but your neighbor is not going to do anything about it. So what do you do about it, right? What do you do about it? That's the thing. And you have been doing it for 30 years, so I get your frustration. I understand, big time. And I know that you're not the only one. You're not the only one. You're not.
He's a new buyer, right? So he can go into his property. See, he plans on building 4 homes there, right? So he got to do grubbing, but now he's got the challenges. But he can harvest rocks, right? He can profit because he can sell it to make brick walls. He can pick up Kiabi wood. They can probably sell to High Steakhouse, because that's one of the things about High Steakhouse. We charcoal board our steaks with charcoal,
Yeah.
which is made from Kiabi wood, right? So this guy can profit from his property, but keep it because he doesn't live near it, right?
Yeah.
That's my country. I go to the fire department and they give me the song and dance, and I thought maybe we'll get some answers here, but obviously, I'm just getting what they call spin off,
Yeah.
spin doctors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, the firefighters.
This meeting does not provide anything that would help for my situation. I gotta go. I can't stay here any longer.
Thank you.
Thank you for the meal and the bottled water.
We hope that you're somehow can. Hey, take a MRE right there. Oh, you had? Okay. All right. Okay. Mahalo. We'll see you later. So, how about a round of applause for him? Sometimes that's what happens, yeah, when our questions don't get answered and we feel the frustration. He definitely feels the frustration. He's looking for an answer that we can't give him or that the government can't give him. Yes, ma'am. Yeah. Individual, yeah. How do we get out of here? Exactly. And this meeting is not that emergency preparedness meeting. This meeting's purpose is to provide information and mana'o on when we have wildfire events. And it is unfortunate that that is part of what we should have in the community to discuss. And there has been groups throughout the years that have done that. They haven't come back. And there are groups that are trying to do that, trying to figure out ways to work with the government. Again, we have to work with the government because when you're talking about escape routes, how do you do that? The government has to be a part of that process because they're the only ones that can open up the roads. They're the only ones that can help us to figure out where are we going to go when in times of disasters that we need to be preparing for. So, yeah. So tonight, it is about, yes, ma'am. Yeah. Mahalo. Mahalo. She's correct. She's correct. You do see so much aloha during times of disaster. You see it. We do it. But can you imagine if we can do so much better if we were better prepared? Right? I mean, what about our kupuna who cannot get out of the house? What about, yes, ma'am?
It is election season that we should get our district leaders involved in how we feel. And each moku is unique, and just like our districts are unique. And we could develop our own plan of escape for our area and our protection and what we have to do. That's what we spoke on last week, was coming together, each moku coming together. And like it's this doesn't have to be personal problems because everybody's got that problem, but it's unique to your local. Yeah. So it is election season. If we get our leaders, this is what we want for our communities, and get them to pay attention to, like the abandoned game room across the street from me. And there's no title to it. They're dumping those tanks. Tanks at the empty. Yeah. Who knows if they're empty? I'm sure they're empty. That's what we're
I mean, we've got a lot of that. Everybody's got propane tanks, empty gas tanks, welding.
I agree. That is what I'll do. I'll put out the kahea to our local politicians and say, hey, our community is asking for you to help design emergency preparedness routes so our community will feel safer, so they will know where to go during each different type of episode of emergency that we have. And you're right, it's an election year, so they will definitely heed our call. So we'll put out the kahea. So at this time, mahalo for bearing with us and understanding his frustration. It's unfortunate that sometimes that happens in life. We're like, oh, I wish I never do that, but too bad I did it. So lesson learned for the future, though. So at this time, a way for us to think about as a community, exactly what she said, moku, right? You're in your moku. How can we help each other? So Hawaii Wildfire Management Organization is going to be talking about Firewise communities, and that's how you do it. You create these communities, you learn who your neighbors are, you get your politicians over there to help you create these evacuation points. You do these things. You got to do it, unfortunately. It's not going to be done for you. You know, the government too much. There's not enough of them to do the work that needs to be done. So it's our own kuleana to do all of these things. And you guys are here because you feel it's so important. It really is. It is so important to protect your aina, your family, your neighbors, your community. And we do it. When push comes to shove, we definitely do it. But let's just do it better. So without further ado, I'd like to invite, who's going to speak first, Anu or Aaron, or both of you guys? Okay, Anu and Aaron, how about a round of applause? Aloha. You can start us off, yeah?
Perfect. Well, thank you for having us. Yeah, we're just going to be really discussing some emergency preparedness tips, but also what you can do around your home and yard. Good. And then kind of going from there. But we did leave some room at the end for questions. So if you guys wouldn't mind just letting us get through the presentation, and then we can always go back a couple slides and answer any questions you folks have. So yeah, as Dr. Charnick shared, we have been a nonprofit for 25 years now, and we lead the state in wildfire education, information, planning, and mitigation. We are 100% dependent on competitive grants and donations, which means that our founders actually started us off selling chili, and then until very recently, we started getting funding from the state at DLNR-DOFA, which is really amazing, and we'll talk about the mitigation work and projects that got funded through that. But really, this is what we're all here about, is to talk about Hawaii being a fire-prone place. So right now, we're looking at the three main reasons being people, climate, and fuel. We have an increase in the following: in human-caused ignitions, in heavy rain followed by drought, which I know we all saw after the Kona low storms this past winter. And then we also have a heavy increase in combustible buildings and vegetation. That means that where our homes are in communities are usually in the wildland-urban interface in Hawaii, and we'll get more into that. But essentially, it's when a home or community is near any vegetative area, and we'll get into the kind of concerns on that in a couple slides. But really, the biggest concern that we're looking at is that fuel is anything that can burn. It's not just that super tall grass around your structure, but it's also anything near your home. Anything in that 0 to 5 area is what we're going to be focusing on today. The importance of that is that your structure's survivability chances increase the more that you clear out that area. So this slide, I'm sure you saw this if you came to our last presentation, but this is our wildfire map of 20 years throughout the state of Hawaii. Every single island and every fire department that responded to a single wildfire is that red dot on the map. And every blue area is a burn scar of a past wildfire. So what we're looking at is that all islands and all sides have a wildfire issue. And the thing about that is that when these fires are starting close to roads and places that we live and frequent, I know access has been probably the #1 conversation here. And that's kind of what we're focusing on today, is that it's not just an Upmalka issue, it's in our homes and our communities, in these roadways that we access daily in our lives. And then this is a map from our community assessment. We had a Waianae community assessment at the homestead last fall, and every community assessment gets these maps done. So this is every wildfire ignition on the homestead from all of our data that was collected. And the thing about this, so same thing, so every red dot is a wildfire, and then every blue area is a burn scar. It was just cut off. That was a certain area for the Firewise community. But yeah, so in Hawaii, we're looking at most wildfires and fires being started by people. 99% of them started by people. This is things from everyday activities like vehicles pulling over on dry grass, equipment, machinery on windy days, simple things, campfires not being put out cold, things that, you know, we might not think twice about, and then there's huge consequences. So really our goal here is that we all want folks to know that it's just one spark. It can take one ember for that to turn into a major wildfire. And it's across unmanaged fire-prone vegetation that everyone's been talking about. It's that dry, tall grass. But then when that goes into our communities where we live, that's when it becomes a huge concern. And then this is from Onohea's community in Papakolea. So this is the wildland-urban interface that I mentioned earlier. This is any area where homes are adjacent to or intermixed with natural vegetation. So many neighborhoods in Hawaii are part of the WUI because homes are built next to or surrounded by grasses, gulches, any vegetation. These communities are more susceptible to wildfires as fires can spread easily from the landscape to structures. And then, as we know, Waianae Moku is also located in the wildland urban interface, and the leeward side is very hot and dry, with these conditions allowing fires to spread very quickly, especially through dry grass, vegetation, and then, as we know, especially on those windier days. So then, I know Dr. Charnick also mentioned, but how do fires start? We need oxygen, heat, and then we need a fuel source. Most of us think of that fuel source as I know a gentleman was talking about his neighbor's house, but unfortunately we have seen through fire research that it can be a broom leaning on your house that could actually be a fire pathway, or basically you're not taking care of any of that 0 to 5 and you have a lot of leaf debris, or you haven't managed anything around your home. We're looking at not just your neighbor's yard, but we're starting with ourselves and our home, and then we're going out. And then we're going to play a quick video for you folks, and I'll pass it over.
Mahalo, Erin. So we're showing this video from the NFPA, National Fire Prevention Agency. It is showing embers being blown at this home, but the home is split in half. One side, the left side, prepared not with the hardening tools. It has the wood siding, so we see the left side goes up in flames very quickly. As for the right side, it has the gravel stone hedge around the home, so that helps to protect it well. We'll play it one more time. There we go. Just gonna play it one more time so you can see the little embers flying out. So they do this test on the continent. This is not done in Hawaii. But these are like potential jobs that Keiki could go into. We need more people of Hawaii to work for the NFPA possibly. And then you see that the left side, as mentioned, went up in flames because of the wood sidings. So the flyer that was shared for our event, it features this home. It is known as the Miracle Home, but it wasn't a miracle that saved this home. It was science. It was education, knowledge that this homeowner learned when they lost their home in California from a fire and applied all of it into their new home on Front Street. So we're going to share some tips on how to keep your home safe. This might be a repeat. It is similar from the first presentation we did, and it's going to be very similar to the third. But this is what we have researched and been taught, that these core tools, it can help to save your home. And this home is evidence of that. Okay. So, did everybody receive the Ready, Set, Go handbook? Can you please hold it up? Let me see. And everyone say ready, set, go. Awesome, right on. So this Ready, Set, Go is everything we do before the wildfire occurs, okay? If the fire is occurring, who do you call? Is that your question? 911, call the police department. Don't call us. I've been getting some calls from community when fires are happening. Don't call me. I cannot do anything about the fires. But we can help to prepare to prevent it ahead of time. That's what we're going to be sharing, especially what you can do right after this meeting today. Immediately, you can take some of these steps. Okay. So first part is ready, and this we're going to share about our HIZ, the home ignition zone. So the first and most important zone is our immediate zone, and that's the 0 to 5 feet, and that's measuring from the outside wall of your home and 5 feet out. Next is the intermediate zone, that's 5 to 30 feet out, and for most of us in Hawaii, those zones, please raise your hand. Do you share that zone with your neighbors? I do. From my house, yeah, I can hear all my neighbors' conversations. The third zone we have is the extended zone. That's the 30 to 100 feet. I wish I had that much room from my property, but no. The intermediate, even a little bit of the immediate, we share that space. So for the immediate zone, the 0 to 5, some tips that we suggest to keep it safer, to try to prevent the fires, is to keep your lanai clear of brown vegetation. And these are things that I know that you're familiar with. We notice a lot of propane tanks are stored underneath our home, so you really don't recommend you to store it underneath your home, but maybe that's the only place you got because you only have the 0 to 5 feet for your home. So a suggestion we could make is possibly getting a fire retardant tarp to cover the propane. It could help to stop the fire from spreading more so. Another thing, yes, keeping the vegetation away from the home, and to harden your home. We really recommend putting like stone gravel hedging around, especially for my home, I have like 4 kupuna. So we actually put a cement walkway around their home. So not only it's safe from fires, but safe for our kupuna also to walk around. So those are kind of things we think about. Because in Hawaii, you can't only focus on one issue. We have like 10 issues happening at once. So thinking of ways of how to 2 birds, 1 stone. I mentioned the cement mulch. We also recommend to build a buffer, and a buffer can also be trees. We call that, it could be a green break. We're going to talk about the plant pono in a bit. There we go. One of our favorite captains, Captain Carl, he recently retired from the fire department, but he loved dragon fruit. Dragon fruit is one of the best things that you can plant around your homes to create ignition-resistant space, and then you can eat the dragon fruit. So Now I'm sharing some hazardous plants, and this is from what I have learned. So not only I work for Hawaii Wildfire Management as the homestead support specialist, but I am first and foremost a homesteader, a community person. I help to lead Naleo Papakoleo Firewise in my community, and what I wish I learned is what these invasive plants look like when they're small and cheap to get rid of. Because when they're 50 foot tall, they're expensive. So this is an example of what a young koa haole looks like on the far right picture, and what the seeds and flowers also look like. And then the mature, when it grows very large. You're all familiar with these plants. It's all around Waianae-moku. Next we have the young albizia. I very much do not like this plant because it's very invasive to our forests, and they grow so huge and their lifespan is short that they also become a hazard. It's called widow makers. They can disintegrate and potentially fall, and when they become huge, that's so scary. So let's eliminate them when they're small and easy to get rid of. I have an auntie that likes their flowers. I'm like, oh, no, they're invasive, but I'd rather use invasive flowers for mekele. Save the natives, leave the lehua for growth so we can get more back. And these are our plant pono suggestions. A'ali'i, one of the first plants that grow after a lava flow. One of the best plants to help create ignition-resistant space. Ulu, also great, and noni, and not only to help with the fires, but food, and also medicinal purposes as well. Pohuehui, I consider one of the most self-reliant plants. They don't need that much care as other plants do. And ko, I was talking to Clay earlier. It's like, why do we have shower trees all over our island? I wish we had more ko or kukui. But these are recommendations of plant pono that you could do around your home. This is sharing one of the activities we did with the OPIO. We did a mock home assessment, and this is efforts to educate the youth of Waianae-moku to step up and to carry on this kuleana, because I know I may look young, but my knees are bad. I've had 3 surgeries. So we're trying to instill the next generation to continue this work now. We visited an auntie's home, and we were observing a pikaki bush that was grown right next to her house. And what is our rule for the immediate zone? 0 to 5 feet. We recommend not to plant or have brown vegetation. We're not gonna ask auntie to get rid of her pikaki bush. So a big part of this Firewise work is the social science of how do we convey these recommendations so community can hear and receive them. Actually, this auntie's house was so well maintained. We had a hard time finding community members that were open to having us come and practice for the assessment. So if any one of you would like to have your home assessed, it is a free program that we offer, but most of all, we are looking for people to become assessors. And I don't want to speak early, but I'm so grateful Ezekiel's in the early works to becoming a home assessor for Waianae-moku, so pa'i lima for him. Yes, we especially are trying to encourage people of the community to become the assessor, so it's a familiar face that's making the recommendations, because yeah, sometimes it's hard to hear from someone, oh, you need to clean your yard. It's like, no. We recommend you clean your yard so it could be safer from the fires. It's more well received by someone of the community. Yep, and own your zone. Also, I want to say mahalo to Pilinamoku and Ka'alo Farms. I heard some great things from Conservation Con about your guys' presentation. Mahalo for sharing about that activity.
Okay, so in our intermediate zone, this is our 5 to 30 zone, which we do recognize we share with neighbors. So that's especially important that nothing is touching, and we're removing those fire pathways, which is anything that's possibly coming from our yard or touching our neighbor's roof or trees or anything like that. We're also looking to keep things lean, clean, and green. We have a handout on the back table that has a lot more details. It's really just keeping them short, well watered, and pruned. And then same with those tree branches. We want to keep tree branches pruned 6 feet if possible to avoid those fire ladders climbing to the roof of our home, which is where the most vulnerability is because it's a flat, large surface. And then we're looking to plant or remove trees if needed, but really we don't encourage the removing of trees. We try to just encourage folks to prune them, especially because keeping that shade, especially in hot, dry areas like the Leeward Coast, is very important, and it cools the area. But yeah, we want to keep those trees 10 feet away from our roof and, more importantly, our neighbor's roof as well, if that's possible. And then, so this is our home ignition zones in the real world. So this is a Fireways community on Hawaii Island, but this is a new map visual that we like to show, which is exactly saying that most of the time maybe we can't touch our neighbor's house, but we can definitely usually hear what's going on or see them. So it's important because these zones are shared, and what we do on our property affects our neighbors, and what they do affects us. So that's really why we encourage folks to start with you yourself as an individual, and then, you can work with your side neighbors and then expand out. I think that was it for that. And then this is our signing up for alerts. This is the same slide I had last time, but I did want to add one thing. I'm not sure if everybody here has heard of Watch Duty, but we just had them present at our meeting last week. This is a really good resource. It's on the App Store, Android and iOS, just Watch Duty. It's essentially coming from a firefighter in California who kind of the same mission as our founders, is they didn't think that the resources they had were enough, and that folks kept seeing themselves in situations like major wildfires in LA or like Lahaina, for example, and there wasn't enough time to evacuate, and they wish that they, could have the word put out, or basically looking for any way to inform folks before it's too late. And we know that time is of the essence in emergencies, so if that's something you're interested in, look up Watch Duty. We can share the resources too. And then this is our hnlalert.gov, which is the city and county, and also what the state provides. That's their own thing, but we do share it and promote just for safety purposes. And then we're getting into evacuation planning and purposes. And then I know pretty much everyone here has a Ready, Set, Go. And if they don't have it today, they already got one last time. But really the importance of this is the last 3 pages, I think, is going to be what hits home. You're going to make an evacuation plan, and you're going to have a go bag, and that's going to be ready to go with you. So that's number 1, is have a plan and review that annually. We know things can change. We don't want you to have a plan that you made last year with your family, and then, maybe just things have changed in your life and you go back to the plan and you're like, that's not going to work out. So we want you to figure that out before an emergency. And then lastly, sign up for alerts. And then if possible, plan ahead for maybe your neighbors that might move a little slower or might need some help. You'll have an extra seat in your car. If you have the capacity to help out others during that emergency, we encourage that. But we do encourage folks to leave and leave early. And then we're going to get into our set portion of the presentation.
So Erin mentioned a few of them, of the county alerts. Watch Duty, that was a really great presentation we just had this weekend. Not only are they sharing about fire updates, but they're working on flood also. So we're really liking those programs that are thinking about the all hazards, because like I said, we have like 10 going on at the same time. Red flag warnings. So red flag warnings, that's to give you like a heads up of what tasks to do or not do. Like maybe don't have a barbecue on the day when you have a red flag. It doesn't mean that it's the warning that's happening. That was a misconception that I had from one community member, that it means to evacuate. No, it means to be maka'ala, to be alert at that time. And then go. You guys already know this, to leave early, but we're going to share this video that shares about an evacuation that occurred. So this video shows a driver escaping through the ember storm. As we mentioned, embers are one of the main causes of fire. The most recent research that we have heard is that embers can travel up to 15 miles. That's really alarming. During the wildfire, roads can be crowded. Something that we heard from the county is, you're not in traffic, you are the traffic. And that really spoke to me. I view the world so differently now, being more embedded into the emergency preparedness. I have an emergency plan when I come out here to Waianae, because I'm far away from my home in town. I have emergency plans when I have my different family members too. And not just one plan, we have like several, because what if the first one doesn't work? Okay, make sure you have a plan B too. But the most thing is we're not trying to instill fear. It's that everything that we've learned is that preparation is the best thing that can help in the long run. Better for plan ahead than during, yeah? So this picture we actually got from Clay. It is from the 2018 fires here on the west side, showing the congestion of the traffic on Farrington Highway. This image reminds us that evacuation does matter, and we need to come up with various options. Actually, I got to speak to that uncle in the beginning, and we talked about, it was like, hey, the Navy has a lot of ships. Maybe could they bring some over during an emergency and evacuate out into the ocean to the ships? But those kinds of plans, we're not going to execute them and get them ready tomorrow. What we're sharing tonight, these are things, actions you can take right now, today. But those plans are important, so we're going to share how Firewise could potentially support those. But like I mentioned, having several evacuation plans, having several travel routes to get out. Something that my community, we've talked about, is who has the larger trucks or vans in the community. Perhaps they can help to evacuate some of the kupuna in the community. Or when a holiday like New Year's is happening, we know that our streets get more congested, so let's plan ahead and those larger cars to put on the main road, so if something happens, at least we have time to walk out and then evacuate. Does that make sense? Those are the types of things we're trying to think of, but again, we're not going to execute them all in one day. These are the confirmed shelter evacuations that we have learned about: Nanakuli High and Intermediate, Nanakuli Elementary, Ma'ili Elementary, Waianae District Park, Waianae Intermediate, Waianae Elementary School, Makaha Community Park, Makaha Elementary School. Something I remember from the last meeting, Uncle Paul asked, well, if we know that these are shelters, evacuations, how come they're not equipped with the resources? That's valid, absolutely. We don't have those answers tonight, but we can work together to press the government and to remember that these concerns are real and they do need to be addressed. What happens so often that I'm witnessing, they have so much things going on. Keep sending the emails and reminding them and poking it at them, because they have so much going on, but they need to be reminded sometimes. And especially when it's a collective community organization, they pay more attention.
Perfect. So the Firewise program as a whole is really just grassroots programs supporting fire-prone neighborhoods in reducing the risks, but really it's community members coming together to come up with their priorities and their concerns in their own community, and then we come out at HWMO with the fire department and DLR DOFA, assess that together, and then come up with a report, and then the community comes up with a roadmap of priorities of things that they'd like to address, some sooner than later, and then some much further. And I know Anohea is going to talk a little bit about things in her community that were on their action plan, and one got done this year, which was really exciting. But I think the biggest motivator is it's encouraging local action to help neighborhoods be more resilient, but with the capacity that's in the neighborhood. We're never coming into a community to tell folks what to do, what it should look like. Of course, we can give suggestions, and we would love to help in any way we can, but we know it's your community, that's the place you folks are from, and you know it best. So this is a list of all of the Firewise communities that we have as of this June. I believe there's a couple more that have not made this list yet. We're still working on updating it. But right now we have almost 50 across all of our islands, and I know the homesteads that we have on Oahu are not on this list right now, but we have Nanakuli and Waianae Homestead that are in the process, as well as 2 Hawaii Kai neighborhoods as well. But the coolest thing, as you can see on Hawaii Island, they have the most. We're based out of Waimea. I think most people on Hawaii Island know who HWMO is. We're still working our way on Oahu and Kauai. Maui really gained a lot of traction after Lahaina, which is great for them. And really just building the momentum of community preparedness and preparation. But we're really trying to work across all communities on Oahu as well as Kauai, as I'm the rep for that. But the effort really takes community members like you all to be successful. And then, so really quickly, how to become Firewise. So it's led by a small group of 3 to 5 leaders with one main contact usually. You have to choose your Firewise boundary. It can be a road, an HOA, certain part of the valley. It just can only be up to 2,500 homes, it is. And then really quickly, just to go over what the assessment looks like. So you're looking at wildfire risks, usually come up with 3 to 4 areas that we go to with community. We assess those areas, take photos, and then those are all compiled into a report. It's like a 30, 40-page document that we send out to community. It is a heavy lift, but it's been really cool to see community turn that into action. And I'll let Anaheat share a little bit about what Papakolea has done and in our spring mitigation work.
I'll share a little background, even how Papakolea, why we got involved with Firewise, because, yeah, listening to that uncle, I'm like, that's how I feel internally, so frustrated with all of it. And it's all valid. Why Papakolea, we first got involved with Firewise. We had a fire New Year's, right at the stroke of midnight, 2024, and I was a crazy person on my street with my water hose putting out all my neighbors' fireworks because they were still partying in the middle of the street because, I don't know, homesteads or Hawaii communities, we like to have a good time New Year's. But had they just shifted a little bit, they would have saw the whole mountain was on fire, and it was caused by firework embers that traveled in the wind, and it landed on the netting that was placed on our mountain. So actually this picture in the bottom, that's my neighbor's house. Like I see this from my yard, and this picture was taken before I got hired at HWMO. But on the mountain, that netting, that's the netting that caught on fire. And yeah, it was really scary. Only a few months after Lahaina, and the fire department that actually answered wasn't our local fire department. I didn't recognize any of those guys, but later on, our community got together and we were like, let's go ask DHHO, what was that netting made out of? So we tried to compile an email, sent it out to them, waited a week, waited 2 weeks, waited a month, waited 2 months, no reply. I was like, oh, okay. So went back to the drawing board. It was like, what are we going to do? We do not want what happened to Lahaina to happen to our community. So we did research, and we went to our local neighborhood community meeting, and that's where they had a special presentation from a guy from UH named Clay, where he shared about this Firewise program that is grassroots, community-led. I was like, oh, wow, I like those words. That's what I operate with, okay. So then we connected with Clay, and then he introduced us to HWMO, and HWMO said, could we come and do a community hazard assessment? So they came on down to Papakolea, and they let us show them the areas of concern in our community. And that was a first for us, because usually it's organizations, entities telling us what to do. But HWMO let us show our community because we know it best. And we showed the areas of concern. Then they went back, made the assessment, but they also told us all those areas of concern you showed us, create plans of how you're going to solve them. That's what the action plan is. And this is our Real Kind action plan for my community, Naleo o Papakolea. And it is attainable, simple tasks that are doable for community. But one of the main ones we're actually trying to identify is the areas, the homes that have we have not seen those leasees for years, and it's overgrown. Especially in town, we have the issues with squatters that are living in those abandoned homes. And we were able to get mitigation funds from HWMO, and we wanted to do grazing on this one property. But we went to DHHO, and we said, hey, we have this whole plan to do it. We just need you guys to give us a rate of entry. They did not give us the rate of entry. And that kind of really was junk. It was like, oh, you're doing all this work, and then you're going to just say no again? Well, we are learning that the department, they have a lot of X's and T's to cross, but we're still going to try and push it again. So now, not only from a fire perspective, also from a health concern perspective, we're sharing of this concern. But we haven't solved it yet. It's still ongoing, but it's still one of our areas of concern, and we're not going to, divert from it. So I hear that. It's all of the homesteads that I visited, abandoned homes, abandoned cars, abandoned homes filled with abandoned cars. That's what all the homesteads have concerns about. And it's going to take a while to identify those big, large landowners that have those overgrown spaces. But what we can do is make sure that our spaces are taken care first, because that's what's in our capacity to attain. But we revisited DHHO, was like, hey, if our homestead is at risk, what about everybody else? And that's when they said, okay, Anuhia, you go be the homestead support specialist. It's like, oh, so be careful when you have a concern, because then they could give you a position to become the solution. But hey, what better way to do it than to take it into your own hands? So actually, we are looking to expand the Homestead Firewise program, and I'm especially looking for young OPO to step up into this kuleana because, my knees are not young. And also technology is becoming more and more involved in this process. I love our GIS mappers that we have. However, they have hard time saying Kamalalawalu or all these Hawaiian names. If it was like Keiki of Hawaii making these maps, it'd be so much more beautiful. Yes. So see, these are some of the actions that we have done. We've done community garage sale to declutter our homes so that we can have safer evacuations, and to start your go bags also. Does everyone here have a go bag? Okay, you're going to go home and start them tonight. We recommend about 3 to 7 days worth of clothing, unperishable foods. We have those boxes in the back. That's so awesome that was provided tonight. And even sign waving. Good old sign waving is so effective. We do this on New Year's Eve, and we have seen a difference of fireworks in our community. Actually, this last New Year's, the whole fire department was in our community on their ATVs. Some community members weren't that happy because it interrupted their celebrations, but no homes are lost. Everyone was safe. It was a good New Year's for me. And this is to break down the Firewise process. So we're not just giving money away. There is some sweat equity involved in this. For the volunteers, hours are valued using independent sectors, Hawaii's volunteer rate. So that changes every year. This year it is $38.29. So for every hour that you spend doing Firewise work, that counts towards your volunteer hours that can go towards your mitigation funding to execute your projects. So, like for example, this past weekend, Nanakuli Firewise, Uncle Paul, can you wave, Uncle Paul? He is one of the po'o, the leaders for Nanakuli Firewise, and we did community door knocking, sharing these NFPA door knockers that share some tips, like what we shared tonight, because mahalo for all of you coming, but we need more people to hear this information. So we said we're gonna hit the streets and do them, and it worked out. Sorry, the power went out in Nanakuli Valley, but that worked in our favor because it forced people to come outside, talk story with us. But these are the initiatives that we're starting with because I'm finding, yes, we need to do those big land mitigation, clear it out, but it's not going to work if the community relationship is not there. So I ask you guys, do you know your neighbors' names? Do you have good relationships with your neighbors? that's a great place to start. Start with your neighbors. Start with that Pilina building, because when stuff hits the fan, it's those people right next to you. They're going to be there with you. Yeah? Okay. This is to summarize. So we usually do our cost share project in May, because May is wildfire preparedness month, because summer, wildfire season. Yes, we have 6 communities for Oahu, 17 for Hawaii Island, and Maui and Molokai. So, yeah. But we hear you. And sometimes it feels like we're preaching to the choir up here, because we know you guys know about fire and preparedness and what you need to do. But it's that Pilina, that community building, that is what I'm seeing needs to happen. Because, yeah, in order to prepare for those emergencies, make sure you know the person's name next to you. Are there any questions or any comments? Yes. Currently, we don't. So that one was made specifically because of the Waianae Valley Homestead assessment. If a community wanted to have an assessment, they would receive those maps. And then the thing about those assessments, they don't belong to HWMO. They belong to the community. So like even lots of representatives, DHHO is always asking me, oh, we want to see Waianae and Nanakui's assessment. I'm like, oh no, you don't ask me. I got to go back and ask the community members, because it belongs to them. 2022. We could potentially make more. Yes. They have theirs. They're through the draft process right now, because I need someone from community to read those 40 pages. Uncle Paul, I'm looking at you. Yeah, that's it. We recognize that it's a big ask, those 40 pages. What we hope to do, we at least need one of the Firewise community members to read it, and then we will make a summarized, condensed version for community members to read, because yes, they're not going to read all 40 pages. They're in the process of reading it. Ezekiel actually just went meet with Auntie Kopua. They're going to divvy up some of the pages, I believe. No, it's okay. Okay, I'll send it back again. No, but that's the thing. There's so much happening too. Yeah, but we got to prepare for all of it at once.
Any questions?
And I'm glad. I might get teary-eyed. No, serious. Because without her help, I can say that. Without her help, I don't think the Nanakuli guys or the Nanakuli people, the residents that live in the valley, Nanakuli Valley, would be able to work out some of our organizing plans without her assistance. Okay? So I want to give her kudos first, number one. Okay? And the thing I really wanted to present, I understand that guy's frustration. I'm frustrated too, seriously. Because on my street, on Lepeka, second road if you live in Nanakuli, there's a huge, monstrous Kiawe tree at the end of the road, and she saw the tree. So she said, I guess got to cut the tree. They finally got here today. They groomed the tree. They did not cut it the way you and I would want it to be cut. Okay? They finally got it done. After 2 years, I got to say it's 2 years when I first sent them the photographs to DHHL. You got to remember now what she said, her frustration was there and so is mine. Because if that tree was to fall on the power lines, my house, which sits next to that power line, would be the first house to burn. mine would be the first one. And I would be the first guy to notify everybody on my street, evacuate, the fire started over here on this end. So that's why I got involved, seriously, because my house would be the first house to burn. So if it's the first house to burn, I'm using that adage there. I guess I better be the first guy to organize. On my street, though, it's not really my street, it's the county, right? But it's my house that needs to be owned. So right after my house was my neighbor. And she said it the best, know your neighbor.
I wonder how I'm going to prevent that. I often want to think that I'm going to put a sprinkler with a hose hanging from it.
She has a 2-story house, and she wants to know how to what? How to prevent.
I'm thinking just put a sprinkler and let the hose hang and we just connect the hose whenever there's a fire around.
Yes. So usually that's what we were taught before, to leave the sprinklers on. It is good to hose off our house, but it's not good to leave it on actually, because it takes the water away from the firefighters. Yeah, my recommendation would be the preparation before to clearing out the vegetation. We have some handouts on some home materials you could use to harden. However, those recommended materials are pricier. And even some of them, like we recommend 1/8 mesh screening for windows. Nobody sells it in Hawaii currently, and it's really expensive. So something that a Firewise community could do when they have their upcoming 2027 May mitigation, if it's on their action plan to get safer windows, they could use the money to buy a bulk order of the netting and then also plan for a contractor to implement it in community. Those are the type of projects that Firewise could do. Or say maybe there's a kupuna on one street, you could, but if agreed upon by the Firewise team, use the funding to have your gutters clean or to have your yards clean. It's not necessarily providing a cleaning service, but if it meets the requirements that it's like on the action plan and collective community safety, it could happen. Does that make sense? Okay.
So how about a round of applause for Anuhea and Aaron from Hawaii Wildfire Management Organization, which actually, how about a round of applause for HWMO? I mean, they're a nonprofit organization who started because of a fire, right? The demand for this type of information is crucial and critical, which is why we're filming it. I know some of the questions won't be heard because you need the mic, but we're very grateful. Wayne Grimes, myself, Adrian Silva with Hui Huli'au, Lena Spain Suzuki with the Waianae Kupuna Council, Alicia Higa with Elepaio Social Services, right immediately, and Brian Keolana, right immediately after the Maui fire, we got together as a community. We brought the community together. We went to Waianae Coast Comprehensive Health Center, and we said, well, what do? We have one way in and one way out. And we talked about it, and we created different mana'o, and then we met 2 more times, and then it stopped. We cannot, and this, Lahaina happened when? How many years ago, right? And here we are. We're back preparing because we have another El Nino coming up very soon. We have to be more prepared than that. But we really didn't stop as that Hui. What happened was, as a result of that, Adrian Silva with Hui Huli'au, he built this radio tower for our, it's not ham radios, it's GPRM or some kind of radio like that, which you can communicate within your own community, because the likelihood of our phones going down is great. If the power goes out, you're not going to have cell phone because it needs that Wi-Fi, right? How are you going to communicate with each other? How? So the radios, the radio tower is meant for us to be able to communicate with each other. The unfortunate part is that we can't allow everybody in our community to have that access code, because can you imagine when all 50,000 of us are on the radio, it's going to jam the radio. So that's why we felt it's so important to have Firewise communities established within the Moku. You have to do that because you have to know your neighbors. You have to create this hui of people that 1 or 2 people will have that code. And within your community, you can have your own radios and communicate to yourself because you know your place best. What road should we be going out to? Because you guys know exactly in your area what's happening, right? So that's why we're doing these sessions, is to encourage you in your community, in your Moku, in your Ili, to create your own Firewise. We really want this to happen because we can't do it all by ourselves, as you see, as you know, but we can do it together. We have to build this Pilina. We have to be united in the way that is going to also not only create help for us in times of emergency, but help for us in times of our own needs within our little communities that we have, and also create more aloha. Yeah. So, Anu, we will send you more information on HWMO. Send Anu's information if you're interested in creating a Firewise Hui. Let her know. Let me know, because that is to me the most important. It's just so important. So I also wanted to put a plug in for Ka'ala Farm. We're celebrating our 50 years this year, and Eric has been there for that long, even before Ka'ala Farm started. So how about a round of applause for Eric Enos? What I'd also like to, impart upon you all is that Ka'ala Farm used to look just like everywhere else in Waianae, dry. It's no longer dry. It's just beautiful green. If you haven't had a chance to come up, let me know. We'll schedule you in. It's because all of the work that we have done throughout the years is to be Firewise, is to be green, is to, not only are we Malama Aina for our own organization, but it's really for our community. That's what we've been working towards, and we continue to work towards greening our Waianae. Be a part of that. Green your house, green your area, green your community. Firewise, when you get together in a hui like that, will definitely help your community to also green your community. There's food. Please take home food. And we have Ezekiel and Trance, who's going to be helping take out the MREs, because it's heavy for those that can't carry it. And we look forward to having you become a Firewise community, or just knowing more and more and more. We are going to be reaching out to our area representatives to see if that's something they can help us work on, creating, those roadmaps that we need in case of emergencies. Want to thank you for being a part of tonight and being a part of our community, and we just are so appreciative. How about a round of applause for yourselves? Drive home safely. Please take home food, get plenty. For real, go. And then they'll walk with you, walk outside and help you with the MREs. Mahalo, babes. Mahalo. Mahalo.